Welcome, everybody, to a brand new week of the Media Row podcast. I'm your host, Justin Miller. As always, a huge thank you to each and every one of you for tuning in to today's shows and all the other shows that happen throughout this week. We greatly appreciate your support. Make sure to show that support by liking, subscribing, commenting, rating, whatever you need to do on wherever you are getting this podcast or viewing this podcast. We are live on YouTube. We are live wherever you get your podcasts, on Apple Podcast, Spotify. So just make sure to click that subscribe button, and we greatly appreciate it. Also, follow us all over social media. At Media Row Pod is where you can catch us on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. Twitter is where we spend most of our time interacting with the listener and where we post all of our coaching post-game interviews, full interviews, not just clips like you'll hear in today's show from Coach Henderson, but we have full interviews. We'll get interviews with players here coming up soon, and we give our game insights and then also just have some fun with the listeners. And we have huge news. Before we jump in to today's show and what you can expect from today's show, we have some huge news for you guys. So remember, we have Murray Hanks on the show. He's the one who set up the Emerald Coast Classic that Drake was in during Thanksgiving break, where they played LSU, Georgia Tech. And he also is the guy who set up the Iowa-Bucknell game that is taking place this Saturday, 7 o'clock at the KC Center. So we have some tickets to give away. That's right. We have 2 pairs of tickets, so that means 2 lucky listeners or viewers will get some Iowa versus Bucknell tickets, courtesy of Murray Hanks and the Media Row podcast. So we greatly thank Murray for his support of the show and being willing to allow us to do this. I'm going to make it really simple for you guys. You know, I'm not going to do a trivia question. I'm not going to do anything like that. I just want you guys to send me in a photo of you and your family at a Hawkeye sporting event and why you want these tickets. And we're going to pick 2 names at random, and those will be our 2 lucky winners. So I think it would just be cool because it is the holiday season. It's the season where you're around family. So send us in some photos of you and your family at a Hawkeye event. Maybe the backstory on it and why you would want these tickets. You can send those into @MediaRowPod@gmail.com or comment the photo and why on our YouTube page below this video or on Twitter as well. And we'll make sure at the end of the show, we will list out where you can make sure to send in your photos and why you would want those tickets. So excited to see what you guys send in. Excited to give these tickets away. So a huge thank you to Murray Hanks for allowing us to do that. And real quick, before we get into today's show as well, a huge thank you to Kelly's Little Nipper over there at 1701 East Grand Avenue in Des Moines. Kelly's Little Nipper, a great place. If you are going to the Iowa-Bucknell game, stop over there, get yourself some great food, great drinks, and hang out with the great community that is Kelly's Little Nipper. And then if you're going to any Drake games here down the road, make sure to stop there as well before or after the game and just enjoy the wonderful atmosphere and the wonderful people and food and drinks that are available at 1701 East Grand Avenue in Des Moines. Kelly's Little Nipper, a proud sponsor of the Media Row podcast. So let's get into today's show. We have a lot to talk about. We have Drake falling at home to North Dakota State in what was a really disappointing loss, a really tough loss, and we'll get into all of that here in just a moment. We'll also talk about just why it was a tough weekend to be a Drake Bulldog fan as the Drake women fall to St. Thomas on the road. And we'll just kind of recap that game from what we saw from afar. Those games tipped off at the exact same time. So we tried our best to make sure we were posting and talking about it. And we'll talk about it in today's show. And then I also want to give my thoughts on the Heisman award. Just some quick thoughts on just the award in general, the college football season, and maybe some issues with it. So that's how we will end today's show. It is going to be a fun show, and then we will spend the rest of this week wrapping up a fun week of previews and recaps, as we always do here on the Media Row podcast. So let's jump into it. The Drake men fall to North Dakota State 99-94. If you like offense, this was the game to watch. If you're a fan of physical and tough defense, it was painful to watch at moments. And the way this game ended and what I saw on social media the moment that final whistle blew is the exact reason why I mentioned on Friday's show of what a win here for Drake would just do confidence-wise for the players, the coaching staff, and most importantly, the fans. Because a win against North Dakota State isn't going to make or break your season, like I mentioned last week. It was just going to give the fans that confidence boost they needed going into what is expected to be a really tough and difficult Missouri Valley Conference season, with so many teams right up near the top and the conference honestly being on a down year. The top and the bottom are a lot closer than expected. But seeing fans turn their back on this team, I think it's time for a reality check for some Drake Bulldog fans. Because the way I was seeing on social media, the fans lose hope in turning their back and leaving the stadium early on this Drake team is very disappointing as a lifelong Drake Bulldog fan that has seen this program literally grow in my lifetime. I was going to games with my dad in junior high, elementary school, where it felt like there was 200 people, if that, in the stadium. Now, look at the Knapp Center. So to see fans leave early and to see them on social media be so frustrated that they're losing hope and turning their back on the team 11 games into the season is very disappointing. And so I think it is time for a reality check for some Drake Bulldog fans. And am I happy? Absolutely not. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. It is a major concern of mine that this team continues to have identity issues when Missouri Valley Conference play begins this week. That is very concerning. Am I happy with a 6-5 non-conference record and a losing record in the Knapp Center, a place that used to dominate? Absolutely not. But I'm also realistic in that sense of Coach Henderson is having to take a whole new roster and a whole new coaching staff and is still trying to figure out the pieces. And it's going to take time. And sometimes we were spoiled with Darren DeVries. One, he probably stayed here longer than he should have. And we are fortunate that he stayed that long because he was able to build something really special and his staff was able to build something really incredible. We were also very lucky with Ben McCollum last year. Did anyone have an idea that Ben McCollum was going to win an NCAA tournament game, was going to win the conference, win 30-plus games in his first year coming from D2? Absolutely not. If everyone had that, then Iowa would have hired him last year. No, everyone knew he was a great coach, but wanted to see how he would perform in the D1 level. They also had no idea that Bennett Sturtz was going to be a future NBA player coming from D2. We got spoiled by Darren DeVries, and we got lucky with Ben McCollum. Those are rare instances, especially this day and age where you have NIL and transfer portal. It makes it really difficult for mid-major teams like Drake to have to rebuild year after year. And if you're expecting a 30-plus win team in year one, then I'm sorry, you're going to be disappointed more often than not. I had Drake in the top 3 of the Missouri Valley Conference going into this season. You can go back and listen to the preseason show. So am I disappointed with the start of the year? Absolutely. And do I have a lot of concerns with this team going into Murray State on Thursday? I really do. But I'm not ready to just say, oh, season's over after losing to North Dakota State and SIUE. No, because I have seen progress from this team. Watching every dribble and every possession like I do, I have seen progress. This team's biggest margin of defeat was by 9 to an undefeated LSU team. And again, that's with a team playing a really poor first half. So you just have to imagine as a fan, it's just going to take that one moment for something to switch. And you're seeing Henderson try to figure it out with his system. You're seeing him try new lineups. I think having Owen Larson on the team is going to be a huge factor here down the stretch, where you have him finally healthy to be able to play in games and possibly be a starter like he did against North Dakota State. Having a guy that has been in his system and knows what he wants is going to help those other really talented players around him. Look at Ben McCollum, perfect example. Again, we got lucky with Ben McCollum because while he was having to rebuild, he was able to bring 4 guys that knew his system to a T over to Drake. That's why the move was so seamless. I think it's okay to be upset. I'm upset too. But I don't believe it's the right choice to turn your back on a team that is still trying to figure itself out just 11 games into the season. Take a deep breath. It's okay to be upset, but there's still plenty of opportunities. At Drake, it was never going to be we're winning the Missouri Valley in November and December. It was always going to be March. It was always going to be that first week of March in St. Louis. That's where we're going to really see this team stack up, and they have to start building up to it because you definitely don't want to play on that Thursday. It's been a long time since we've seen Drake play on Thursday in St. Louis. We don't want that by any means. But we are going to start seeing where this team truly stacks up for that first week in March. This week, Thursday night, they play at Murray State, who is a very talented team and concerns me a lot. And so just take a deep breath. Myself, other Drake fans included, let's take a deep breath and let's just see how I'm one of those guys where I'm okay as a fan saying, let's just see how this plays out. I'm not ready to make assumptions. I'm not ready to say that, I've seen fans say we were caught with our pants down hiring Coach Henderson. I'm not even remotely close to being able to say that this was an awful hire. I'm not ready to say it was a great hire either. I'm okay with sitting here and saying, let's give him time. That's the best option as a Drake fan. So there's my little rant. I think we can all just snap back to reality. And it was a very disappointing Saturday. And it's funny that I'm going to go from, hey, let's give this some time and go into describing and recapping this game because it was ugly. It was very ugly. I get it why fans were upset because it was the worst defensive performance I think I saw from Drake this season. I mean, we have seen some difficult starts, some tough starts in the first half. Every game we preview, it feels like our biggest key is for Drake to get off to a quick start. And that defensive side of the ball was brutal. You also had North Dakota State, who really couldn't miss. Because in that second half, Drake was improving and adjusting and getting better contests at North Dakota State. They were just already in a rhythm from that first half where Drake couldn't contest anything. I mean, there were some simple mistakes that Drake defense was making in both communication and in scheme. Because you had guys going under screens against a 2-man pick and pop duo from the Bison. You had these guys all these guys for North Dakota State just launching the ball. They hit a season high 19 3-pointers. They almost broke or tied their school record with 20. This was a team that was on fire. And the Drake defensive identity concerns and just the issues we see on the defensive side of the ball early in games is very, very concerning going into Valley play. I do believe, though, to end this on a positive note, this offense is clicking. They put up 94 points against a top 3 defense in the Summit League in North Dakota State. They are a good defense. You had 4 players with 10-plus points. You had Shetler putting up a career-high 15 points. You had Quinn with 22 points. Andrew Aaliyah with double figures. And the ball movement looked good for the first 8 minutes when both teams combined for an 8 of 8 on the floor. This Drake system was running to perfection. They were getting inside to Federico where he was deciding to make a move strong to the basket, or he was kicking it out to an open player on the wings. This is a Drake system that has proven to work for this team, where that inside-out game is beautiful when it works. And you notice a difference in this team. And for the first 8 minutes, we were seeing that difference for the Bulldogs. It just, once North Dakota State got on fire and once they were taking advantage of those miscommunication errors and of the scheme errors Drake had defensively, Drake started to panic a little. You did see that panic where they were just trying to keep the game close. But again, they come back and win the second half. They score 53 points in the second half. They hold North Dakota State to 44. But what have we been saying all year long? Drake just puts themselves in these deep deficits early on to where a great second half push, no matter how great it is, it just hasn't been enough. They have to be able to play a full 40. And that on top of the identity issues defensively are the 2 biggest concerns. So we'll see what Coach Henderson changes. Spoke to him after the game. This was the clip that was getting a lot of traction on Twitter after the game and was where I was seeing most of the kind of loss of hope, the turning the backs from fans was from these comments from Coach Henderson. And it was him taking accountability. I actually really liked his answer to my question about where does the adjustment start as a head coach when you're seeing these consistent issues and struggles. So here's Coach Henderson taking accountability after the 99-94 loss to North Dakota State.
But I got to just change the routine up. That's what I told our staff after the game. This is on me. I've got to mix things up. I've got to change our routine. I've got to make sure that our guys, we got to do a better job of protecting our home floor. And part of that, like to your point, is getting off to better starts, establishing that identity, not letting the other team be as comfortable as most of them have been. You know what I mean? And so that's on me, and I've got to continue to find ways, be creative, to make sure that the other team isn't as comfortable as they have been to start the game.
You mentioned it's a very disappointing start. It's a very disappointing start, but give it some time. It's 11 games into his first year. Give it some time. I think this team has shown some great strides where we have seen them perform. That second half, watch that second half against an undefeated LSU team, and you can see what the potential and the ceiling is for this Drake Bulldog squad. It's just finding that identity and playing a full 40. A lot easier said than done. So Drake will play Murray State. The men will play on Thursday night, starting Missouri Valley play. So we'll have a lot of fun. Wednesday, we'll of course preview the game, and then we'll probably just do a full Missouri Valley Conference kind of breakdown, kind of get you re-familiar if you haven't been watching all of the Missouri Valley Conference games, get you re-familiar with these teams and updated on where these teams are standing, who has looked really good, maybe who has disappointed, and we'll have some fun on Wednesday with Missouri Valley Conference play starting off. It was a difficult weekend to be a Bulldog fan. I mean, I will tell you right now, very difficult. As you had a very disappointing loss at home for the men, and then just a difficult watch for the women as they fall on the road to St. Thomas 70-50. Drake falls to 1-8. This is a Coach Pullman team that I knew losing Katie Dinnebier, losing Courtney Becker, Anna Miller, losing those three starters is huge. For Drake to try to replace the numbers and the efficiency that Katie Dinnebier alone was bringing on the floor, let alone Courtney Becker and Anna Miller. I knew that was going to be difficult. It was going to be a challenge. You were going to see a slight decline offensively from this Drake team. I did not expect it to be like this, though. I really did not. I didn't expect Drake to just have one win in their first 9 to basically go winless for a month. It's been hard to watch. And Saturday was no exception. The starting lineup really struggled. You only had one starter with 10 plus and Abby Alsma. The two players off of the bench that shined, and Grace Knutson and Maggie Taylor, had great performances, combining for 27 points, but you can't just have 3 players scoring. And that's been the issue for Drake this year, is they haven't had that player that can just take over and win games single-handedly, like you kind of felt you had with Katie Dinnebier. The offense at times gets panicked, and when you play at the pace that Pullman plays at, panic settles in, and you're going to see those turnover numbers jump up. And you saw that. Credit to St. Thomas, they played really good defense too, but some of it unforced. 18 turnovers, along with some really poor shooting, again, from this offense. I think they only made 3 3-pointers on Saturday. It's just been really difficult for this team. And I've been absolutely shocked at the slow start. And again, much like the men, we are seeing those second half adjustments from Pullman where it looks like 2 completely different teams. And I don't know now, honestly. I know we talked about it just last week during our shows about Grace Knutson coming off the bench because you want to have someone that you can rely on offensively coming off your bench. I think you have to put her in the starting lineup. I mean, she has been unbelievable this year. Her progression. Abby Alsma has been fantastic too. Not taking anything away from her. Not saying that she has to have Grace Knutson next to her. We know Abby Alsma going into the year, we expected her to be the leader. She has performed great in that spot. Every Jordan needs their Pippin. Katie Dinnebier needed Anna Miller and Courtney Becker. You have all these teams that just need a strong duo. And in that starting lineup, I think Grace Knutson has proven she can be a strong duo and a threat to defenses along with Abby Alsma. And so I think you have to put her back in the starting lineup if you're asking me what to do with Grace Knutson, because she has just been incredible. I still don't mind Vice Quinn getting the starting spot over Maggie Taylor. I know Quinn didn't have a single point against St. Thomas. Maggie Taylor's shown great improvement too. I just think for that starting lineup, Quinn fits it much better with being able to stretch the floor. And I do like having a player that you have confidence in putting up points coming off your bench. And Maggie Taylor's proven to be one of those players. Just difficult. Just a really tough stretch for this Drake women's team. Not the start at all we expected. And it's teetering on being a historic low point for the Drake women's team. I still have confidence in Pullman. This is the first time in her years of coaching here at Drake that we're seeing a really struggle to compete at the start of the year. So we'll see what happens. Up next, Wednesday, they begin Valley play against Indiana State before moving back to non-conference play at home on Sunday in a huge game against 7-3 Minnesota at home. It's going to be a really tough week. They could lose both games. They could lose both games. We know that. I think the style in which they lose these games is going to really show how Valley play is going to go. If they are able to play a full 40 and they lose both games, I think fans will go, okay, something's turning. If they lose both games like they have lost these previous 8 in a row, then you might have to start getting a little concerned. But we'll just see how it goes. Very difficult weekend for the Drake women. But we will be, of course, covering the Indiana State game on the road. We will also be there live at the Knapp Center on Sunday to cover that huge Minnesota game as the 7-3 Golden Gophers come to town to face the Drake Bulldogs. So moving on now to end today's show with a little bit of college football talk, because we have college football playoffs beginning this weekend. We, of course, will preview and give our predictions of those games coming up this weekend on Friday. On Friday's show, we will, of course, do that. But I want to talk about the Heisman Award. First and foremost, the Heisman Award just isn't what I've always been told it used to be. Like, for my generation, for my buddies, I think I had one friend talking about it. It just isn't that big of a deal, it feels like, anymore. And I talk to people like Travis and Ross, and they're like, man, it used to be the biggest thing. It was appointment television. I was watching Indiana and Kentucky when I saw the break on the scrolling, ESPN ticker say Fernando Mendoza from Indiana has won the 2025 Heisman. I'm like, oh, cool. That's who we expected. I think the last one I watched was 2018 because I thought Dwayne Haskins got robbed from Kyler Murray. I still will go to my grave believing that. I mean, Kyler Murray was great, but Dwayne Haskins broke like every Big Ten quarterback record that season and was incredible. And they give it to Kyler Murray. That's not the point I wanted to get to today. Stay on track, Justin. I wanted to talk about, one, just how the Heisman has just not been that big of a deal. It's very cool. Like, if a guy on your team wins the Heisman, yes, absolutely a big deal. And Mendoza was great. But I do believe this is by far the weakest Heisman year we've had in the past 10 years. Where Mendoza, again, he was great, deserving of this Heisman. I tweeted out when he made that game-sealing throw on that huge third down against Ohio State 2 weekends ago. I was sitting there saying that throw just won him the Heisman. He's well-deserving. 2,980 yards, 25th out of quarterbacks, but with 33 touchdowns, which leads all quarterbacks, and a QBR of 88.5, along with only 6 interceptions. He is deserving of this award. Just overall, though, the competition in the Heisman this year wasn't that great. Julian Sam played really well, too. That Big Ten championship, you heard Gus Johnson say it 1,000 times. This game is potentially for the Heisman. Julian Sam and Fernando Mendoza were definitely the two top candidates. But other than that, it didn't even feel, watching college football this season, like there was a clear Heisman favorite, a clear Heisman winner. you're watching Mendoza and you go, man, he's really good. But in years past, there's someone that's electric. That's just pure dominance, where you sit back and you go, there is absolutely no way he doesn't win the Heisman, where he has to be going to New York. This year, it was just full of some really, really good players and no one great. It would have been a great year for a running back like Genty to be involved, but the one running back we thought had an opportunity at the start of the year in Notre Dame's Jeremiah Love kind of disappointed this season. Wasn't anything incredible. And for a running back, you can be absolutely fantastic, great, but you have to be breaking records. Same with wide receivers now. And even though he had a really strong year, he did disappoint. And then the biggest factor against him was his team did get kicked out of the college football playoff. Whether you believe that is right or wrong, his team wasn't in the college football playoff. That's also why we saw Vanderbilt's quarterback not win it too. So a good year from Love, he disappointed. And then the wide receivers like Jeremiah Smith, who was great. The wide receivers we were so excited about at the start of the year that we were mentioning, man, they may have an opportunity to win the Heisman. They kind of disappointed too. It wasn't crazy impressed with Williams. Kind of was banged up. You had Jeremiah Smith also banged up, didn't play a full season. So they didn't stand a chance because same way with running backs, wide receivers have to be breaking records, it feels like, to get any sort of Heisman love. It is a quarterback award now. It sucks. I hate it because I still believe like Genty got robbed. I still believe there's been numbers of running backs that could have been in the conversation. Wide receivers. I know Smith won it for Alabama and was that 2019? So I understand a wide receiver has won it in recent years, but it is just, it's a award where I don't get that excited about anymore. Unless, of course, if there's a player, if you're a Hawkeye fan, Cyclone fan, if there was someone like that getting mentioned for the award, of course you get excited about it here in this state. And if an Ohio State guy, I mean, Julian Saying had an opportunity to win that Heisman, and it didn't do much for me. So that's my little rant on the Heisman to finish up today's show. I think Mendoza is deserving of it. I just felt like it was kind of a weak year all around in college football for the Heisman race. But that will do it for today's show. A rantful Monday, as we talked a lot about the Drake men's future. We had our moment with the Drake women as they continue to struggle. And then I went on a little rant there with the Heisman. So make sure to comment in what you thought of the show. Make sure to comment what your thoughts were with the Heisman race. Maybe you're a Drake fan that has turned their back on Henderson, and you can disagree with me like I'm disagreeing with you. I love having those conversations. The point of this show is to have those debates and have those conversations. So make sure to tweet in, comment wherever you're getting this podcast, what you thought of today's show. And that will do it, as we will get ready for a Wednesday full of previews, as we will preview the Drake Bulldogs tipping off against Murray State on Thursday night as they begin Valley play. The Drake women begin Valley play on the road against Indiana State as well. We'll preview that, along with just a full Missouri Valley Conference kind of recap throughout the non-con as conference play begins. College basketball is in full swing now, so get excited, get hyped. We're going to have a lot of fun throughout the season on the Media Row podcast.